So, have you ever looked at your LinkedIn feed, scrolled through, and then kind of scratched your head wondering why your own posts just aren't getting the reach they used to? That feeling, like your content's just falling into a black hole. You are definitely not alone. It's actually such a widespread thing now that, well, people are calling it the LinkedIn algorithm crisis. It's this dramatic decline in organic reach and post impressions that's affected nearly everyone on the platform. Okay, let's unpack this.
Yeah, and that's exactly what this deep dive is about. We've pulled together insights from this really extensive report by Manus AI. They analyzed, get this, over 621,000 posts. So this isn't just guesswork. It's like hard data from top LinkedIn experts, and it covers a pretty significant period, January 2024, right through to July 2025. So it gives us a very current, very comprehensive picture of what's actually going on.
Right. And our main goal today, our mission, is to really understand what happened, why these big changes occurred, and, maybe most importantly, what you can actually do about it.
Yeah.
This isn't just about clawing back lost reach. We think it's about spotting a huge opportunity here. The people who adapt now, they won't just get back to where they were, they can potentially blow past their previous performance levels.
Okay, let's dive into the numbers because they really show the scale of this. Average LinkedIn reach, it's plummeted by a significant 22% just in 2024, which means astonishingly, like 2/3 of posts are now underperforming compared to how things used to be. And if you run a company page, the news is even, starker. A typical company page post now reaches only 1.6% of its followers. That's a 15% drop just from late 2023. We're also seeing brand posts making up just 1-2% of the entire LinkedIn feed. That's way down from 7% back in 2021. And look, this isn't random. It's not a glitch. It really reflects LinkedIn making a strategic choice to prioritize individual creators over corporate content.
Wow, 1.6% reach for company pages. That's a fundamental shift, isn't it? It really sounds like LinkedIn is maybe actively deprioritizing that old style of one-way corporate broadcasting. The main insight here seems to be it's less about your brand's megaphone now and much more about your people's, authentic voices. So for you, the listener, this probably means you need to rethink your whole professional presence, maybe your business strategy too. The old ways, they just aren't cutting it anymore.
Absolutely. And to really get this, we need to understand how the new LinkedIn algorithm actually works. It's pretty sophisticated. It operates using this 3-stage process. That's what determines your content's reach and volume. Stage 1. Initial classification. This happens almost instantly. We're talking like the first hour, maybe even the first 0 to 60 minutes after you post. In this window, LinkedIn checks out the post's quality, its relevance, looks for spam signals, that kind of thing. And then it sets an initial audience size for testing. Honestly, this is where a lot of posts just fizzle out. They don't gain traction. Things like grammar, readability, if you've got external links, too many hashtags or emojis, even your posting frequency patterns, it's all getting looked at.
Okay, so you got to pass that first quality check just to even get in the game. Then, assuming you make it past that, you hit stage 2, engagement testing. Okay, here's where it gets really interesting. This happens during that critical golden hour, that first, say, 1 to 2 hours after you publish. LinkedIn starts measuring how quickly your test audience actually engages with the post. And here's a detail that really jumped out at me. Comments are valued twice as much as likes. That seems like a really clear signal, doesn't it? LinkedIn wants meaningful discussion, not just passive scrolling. And things like dwell time, how long people actually spend reading your post and click patterns, are also analyzed pretty deeply here.
Exactly right. Twice as much for comments. It's huge. And this whole multi-stage process really shows that LinkedIn isn't just looking at what you post, but how people interact with it. Like right away, that first hour is basically make or break. It proves engagement isn't just some vanity metric now. It's literally the algorithm's fuel. Okay, so then, finally, get to stage 3, extended distribution. This kicks in after that initial 2-hour mark, roughly. At this point, how far your post reaches is determined by how well it did in that golden hour, how relevant your network is, and your overall content history on the platform. And these stages, they're driven by some really clear algorithmic priorities now. LinkedIn is heavily prioritizing what they call relationship-based distribution. So you'll see more stuff from connections you actually interact with regularly. They're also boosting knowledge and advice content that offers real actionable insights, professional development stuff, industry expertise, that gets a lift. And, relevance is always key. Putting the right content in front of the right people based on their industry, job, location, how they've engaged before.
Okay, this shift towards individual creators, it sounds almost revolutionary. From the research, what's the single biggest takeaway for businesses that have, always relied heavily on their company pages? Because the data you mentioned is pretty stark. Employee posts getting 2.75 times more impressions, 5 times more engagement, even though employees have, 4 46% fewer followers on average. And that founder example, 98% fewer followers, but matching or beating the company page engagement. That's wild.
The biggest takeaway, the page-first strategy, for organic reach at least, is, well, it's essentially dead. LinkedIn weighs engagement from non-employees much, much more heavily. A comment from someone outside your company gives a 10x lift compared to a like, and it's 2x the lift of a reshare. But on the flip side, engagement from your own employees, it carries about 35% less weight now. And this has directly led businesses to pivot to a people-first strategy. It's happening right now. As of 2025, something like 71% of chief marketing officers are saying they've increased investment in internal influencer programs. And it makes total sense, right? Especially when posts that include a personal story or narrative see around 30% higher engagement. It really is all about leveraging that human connection. Now, on the technical side, LinkedIn's rolled out several changes that are directly hitting content performance. Take AI-generated content. It's getting penalized pretty significantly. Long-form posts that look AI-generated, they get 45% less engagement than stuff written by humans. LinkedIn's apparently gotten pretty good at spotting what the report calls soulless content, just riddled with buzzwords like synergistic solutions. Oh, and the signs of a penalty are clear. 0 comments, maybe except from bots, no shares by real people, no messages coming in from potential clients. Then there's the infamous external links penalty. We've all felt this one, right? LinkedIn throttles posts with outbound links. Why? Because their business model needs you to stay on LinkedIn. The recommendation now is basically an 80-20 rule. 80% native content, maybe 20% external links. And the key thing, put any essential links down in the comments section, not the main post.
Hold on, hashtags. I thought they were still kind of essential. How much have they really dropped off? And why keywords instead? That seems like a subtle shift. Also, that AI thing. What if someone's using AI responsibly? Like for a first draft or just brainstorming ideas. How does LinkedIn tell the difference between soulless stuff and, well, efficiently created but still valuable content?
Yeah, good questions. On the AI front, it seems LinkedIn isn't necessarily penalizing the use of AI itself, but more the result if it reads like it was just churned out without any real human thought or editing. So if you're using AI as a tool for brainstorming, refining ideas, checking grammar, and then you really inject your own unique voice, your experience-specific examples, you're probably fine. It's that generic buzzword-heavy output that lacks a clear human touch that seems to get flagged. And yes, hashtag effectiveness, it has diminished a lot. LinkedIn is now prioritizing the actual keywords you use within your post text, so hashtags are just less powerful. The advice is use only 3 to 5 hashtags maximum. Don't repeat them. And definitely avoid those spammy engagement baiting ones like hashtag follow or hashtag like. They don't help. On a brighter note, though, video content has seen a bit of a comeback, especially after they introduced that TikTok-style short-form video feedback in March 2024. But there's a sweet spot. Videos under 90 seconds. They perform best. Anything longer than 3 minutes. The algorithm seems to actively discourage it. Now, looking at why posts fail, the common pitfalls. Many times, low impressions come from issues that are, frankly, avoidable. One big one is content quality and authenticity. Beyond just the AI stuff we talked about, there's this thing called trauma dumping. That's basically sharing really personal struggles, but without offering any actionable lessons or professional insights alongside it. That consistently underperforms. It signals to the algorithm maybe that the content isn't really relevant for professional development. And similarly, those recycled listicles, stale advice like 10 productivity hacks for success that feel like they're from 2018. They offer 0 new value. They kind of insult the audience's intelligence, really. They signal a lack of original thought.
I am so guilty of seeing those 10 productivity hacks posts constantly. It's like LinkedIn bingo sometimes. That sounds like a pretty brutal filter, though. What do you think is the biggest misunderstanding people have about what counts as valuable content on LinkedIn right now?
I think the biggest misconception is that valuable just means sharing any information. But LinkedIn's algorithm now seems to be looking for actionable value, genuine insights, stuff that actually sparks a meaningful conversation. It's less about just broadcasting facts and way more about starting a dialogue. Another critical factor is timing and frequency. That golden hour we discussed, it's absolutely vital. Posting at bad times like late at night or during lunchtime when people are away, you're just wasting that crucial window. The research suggests optimal times are generally Tuesday through Thursday, maybe 8 to 10 a.m., 12 to 2 p.m., or around 4 p.m., local time, of course. And frequency matters too. The sweet spot seems to be 2 to 5 posts per week. Posting too little or even too much can actually hurt your reach. And finally, a huge culprit, engagement strategy failures. You know, the post and ghost approach, where you publish something and then just disappear without engaging with any responses. It's like showing up to a party, dropping off a dish, and leaving immediately. You're not really building relationships, are you? It signals to the algorithm you're not a genuine community member. And likewise, not responding to comments or responding really slowly, that also reduces your distribution. But the good news here is these are all things that are within the creator's control. There's a clear path to fixing them.
That really does offer a glimmer of hope, doesn't it? It implies that a lot of these issues aren't about the algorithm being like inherently against you, but more about how your actions are being interpreted by the system. So, okay, knowing all this, how do we actually start to turn things around? How do we change the game?
Absolutely. And the research points very clearly towards a human-first content strategy. It's all about authentic connection, sharing personal experience. Look at Jodi Cook, for example. The report highlights her success. She quadrupled her following, went from 7,000 to 30,000 in 2024. How? By focusing on content that really connects on a human level, stuff that genuinely makes busy professionals pause their scrolling. Key parts of this, sharing your actual personal experiences, specific client results, not just generic advice. It's also about what the report calls signposting, your expertise. That means subtly weaving in your knowledge, your achievements, but in a way that feels helpful and authentic and not like bragging. And finally, there's this idea of the anti-niche approach. Start with universal problems or insights first, things anyone can relate to, before you narrow down to very niche examples later in the post.
That's fascinating. And building on that human element, there's Yasmin Alacic, who apparently gets over 1,000 comments per post routinely. Wow. He had this strategy called the 3-line rule and hook optimization. His argument is that the first 3 lines of your post, you know, the bit people see in the feed preview before clicking see more, those lines have to contain your entire value proposition. We're talking about hooks that grab attention instantly. Things like counterintuitive statements, maybe a specific surprising statistic, a really thought-provoking question, or even a bold claim that just makes people need to read more.
Exactly. And it's not just the hook. Advanced engagement strategies are absolutely crucial once you've posted. Alic's comment strategy, for instance, treats the comments section as like the main event, not just an afterthought. He apparently uses structured time specifically for engagement, asks strategic questions within the comments, and uses pin commenting. That's where you can highlight a really valuable comment, maybe your own follow-up thought or someone else's great point, pinning it right to the top so everyone sees it, adds extra value. It's also important, apparently, to do some pre-posting warm-up, like spend some time commenting on other people's posts before you publish yours, and then immediate monitoring and quick responses right after you post, especially during that golden hour to keep the algorithm's attention going. There's also this question framework idea, simple but effective. Start comments or posts with easy yes-no questions that naturally encourage people to elaborate, rather than hitting them with complex, open-ended questions right away.
What really surprised me, though, was Yasmin Alic's sales-free selling approach. He actually states, and I'm quoting here, you don't need to sell in your content to sell from your content. So by just consistently delivering value, showing your expertise without constantly pushing a sale, people like Alic are getting booked solid like 6 months in advance. It seems to be all about building trust and demonstrating competence first, and letting the sales kind of happen organically from that.
Precisely. And this whole approach ties directly into the importance of community building and relationship development. The algorithm at its core seems to be rewarding genuine engagement in those longer-term professional relationships. And for businesses, employee advocacy becomes this huge lever you can pull, given that preference for individual creators. Think about it. Your employees' combined networks are often 10 times larger in aggregate than your company's follower list. That's an incredibly powerful and often untapped internal marketing channel.
Okay. This all sounds great in theory, but, how do you actually do it? How do you put this into practice day to day? The good news, apparently, is the report lays out a pretty clear step-by-step framework for implementation. It breaks down into phases you can start applying pretty much right away.
Yes, it's designed as a practical roadmap. It starts with phase 1, foundation and assessment. This is like week 1 and 2. You basically do a content audit, look at your last 20 or 30 posts, see what worked, what didn't, create a baseline performance report. Then you really analyze your audience. Who are they? What do they need? And set some specific measurable goals for yourself. Then you move into phase 2, content strategy implementation. This is weeks 3 through 6. Here, you start implementing those high-performing post templates. We talked about like reintroduction posts, maybe posts about common mistakes in your field. The if I was starting from scratch angle, myth-busting, quick win posts. You really work on mastering that three-line rule for your hooks and focus on optimizing your content quality, cutting out the AI jargon, using that signposting technique naturally.
Okay, makes sense. Then phase 3, engagement strategy execution, weeks 7 to 10. This is where you implement something called the LinkedIn Hour strategy, basically setting aside dedicated structured time for engagement both before and after you post, and developing that advanced comment strategy, adding value, using pinned comments, maybe optimizing the kinds of questions you ask to really spark discussion.
Exactly. And then finally, phase 4, advanced optimization and scaling. This is weeks 11 through 16 and beyond, really. This is where you get more systematic. You start testing different content formats, maybe try more video or document posts or paracells. See what resonates best with your audience. If you're running a business, this is where you'd seriously develop that employee advocacy program. And crucially, you start integrating your LinkedIn activity with your broader business development goals. Track actual business results, leads, clients, revenue that come from your LinkedIn efforts.
Right. So this definitely isn't a quick fix then. It sounds like quite a commitment. How would you describe the level of effort needed for success on LinkedIn now?
It's definitely a commitment to continuous optimization and adaptation. LinkedIn isn't static, right? It's always evolving. So what worked 6 months ago might not work today. It really requires diligence, a willingness to experiment, track results, and refine your approach constantly. Looking ahead, our best guess, based on the report, is that LinkedIn's algorithm will likely continue to emphasize authentic human connection. We'll probably see an increasing preference for short-form native video, even more sophisticated AI detection, trying to weed out that low-quality stuff. And support for genuinely educational, valuable content will likely remain pretty strong.
And we'll probably keep seeing platform features evolve too, right? Like that TikTok-style video feed, getting more prominent, maybe more promotion for newsletters and articles created on LinkedIn, expanding the events and live streaming capabilities. It really is an ever-changing landscape. Adaptability seems absolutely key.
Absolutely. So for long-term success, the strategic advice boils down to a few core things. Focus relentlessly on building genuine professional relationships. Provide consistent, actionable value. Don't just post noise. Develop a diversified content strategy. Don't put all your eggs in one basket, whether it's text posts or video or whatever. Mix it up. Prioritize real business results over vanity metrics like likes or even impressions sometimes. What's actually moving the needle for your goals. And fundamentally, invest time in relationship building and community development, because those things, those connections, they tend to transcend whatever the algorithm does next.
So what does this all mean? What's the bottom line for you, our listener?
Yeah.
The LinkedIn algorithm crisis, well, it's undeniably a significant challenge, no doubt about it. But as we've hopefully unpacked today, it's also a really substantial opportunity for those who are willing to adapt, willing to pivot their approach.
Yeah, I think success on LinkedIn in 2025 and probably beyond, it just requires this fundamental shift, moving away from that old broadcast style of just pushing content out and moving towards authentic community engagement, genuine relationship building. The algorithm is increasingly rewarding authenticity, real expertise, and adding actual value to the community.
Which leads to maybe a final thought for you to consider. What if, instead of viewing LinkedIn purely as a place to, push out your content and hope for the best, what if you fully embraced it as a place to genuinely connect, to learn from others, and to build really lasting professional relationships? Regardless of how the algorithm shifts next month or next year, that kind of approach, it might not just recover your reach, it could fundamentally transform your entire professional network, maybe even your career. Something to think about.